This week's episode of Millions of Screens is brought to you by Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, nominated for 7 Emmys, including Outstanding Variety Talk Series. Check it out! Hello and welcome to Millions of Screens. I'm creative producer Leo Garcia, joined via Zoom by TV Awards editor Libby Hill and TV deputy editor Ben Travers. On today's episode, an interview with Ted Lasso's Roy Kent, Brett Goldstein. He'll be here to talk all sorts of Ted Lasso nonsense, from his affection for swearing in front of children to some of his primal fears of being stuck between adjoining doors in a hotel.
Don't give it all away, Leo.
Yeah.
Hold on to some good stuff.
But before then, we're going to touch on the Emmy Drama race and some of the shows that Ben and Libby want to stump for, to remind voters that, hey, it's not all about the crown. Doesn't have to be about the crown all the time.
This is millions and millions of little screens.
Can't you shut up? I'm busy. Boy, what a great show.
But first, skipping ahead to the clicker, our recap of the biggest news items from this past week. Guys, this past week, HBO announced their fall slate of shows. There's a lot on it. Scenes from a Marriage, Curb Your Enthusiasm Season 11, Insecure Season 5, How To with John Wilson Season 2, Finding Magic Mike. But is there anything you guys are really excited about that was on that list that I maybe didn't mention?
Finding Magic Mike, come on. Yeah, let's do it. Let's find him. We want a third film. If we can't find him, we'll never get one. Right? That's how it works?
Yeah.
And I love ill-timed pandemic limited series, Station 11, if only because we have Mackenzie Davis's return to TV where she belongs. Who knows? It'll probably be a disaster, but I have missed her. I have missed her on my TV.
But yeah, any other thoughts from the HBO announcement other than the things that we thought were coming are coming?
You gotta love the slow rollout of the Succession Season 3 release, because it's like, okay, so Succession Season 3 is gonna come this year. Okay, Succession Season 3 is gonna come in the fall. Okay, Succession Season 3 is gonna come in October. Okay, we're still not saying the date. We will tell you the date. Just be cool. We know you're excited.
Probably
we're
next
just
week.
Feeding that excitement a little bit at a time. And it's working. It's working very well. Yes, I think Succession is obviously the dominant fixture in this announcement. There are other things coming to HBO which are exciting. I don't remember which ones Leo mentioned, but
Scenes from a Marriage?
But yeah, Scenes from a Marriage is coming out. Curb Your Enthusiasm is coming back, which frankly I knew they'd been shooting for a while, but for some reason wasn't expecting this fall. I was expecting it like early next year or maybe in the lead up to the Emmys in May. And then I think the most pleasant surprise for IndieWire folks outside of Succession was that How To with John Wilson Season 2 is coming in November. And another one that was just much sooner than I expected it to be. So yeah, HBO's got some stuff coming.
What a nice surprise. Because it feels, for the last 10 years, it feels like we've trended more and more towards, and that's not coming back for 3 years. And that now, even in the wake of a global pandemic, like, to be surprised by things coming back sooner than I expected is just one of those tiny, tiny delights that are so rare in life.
Well, speaking of things that aren't coming back for several years, we are talking about the drama race. And because Succession missed that window, it was out for a year. It's left this vacuum in the drama category. And so I guess I wanted to take this opportunity to have you guys sort of advocate for, some of the shows that need a little more attention. Obviously, this is a category where The Crown sort of looms large, a potential to take 3 of the 4 acting categories, if not all 4, and Best Show. But let's see what you guys think.
I would point out that it feels very strange to not have Succession in the mix, especially after the fervor surrounding Season 2. So, yeah. Libby, what do you like about the dramas? What dramas do you love?
Nothing. I don't think I like television anymore, Ben. No, I will say that this is a very strange year, and it feels like I've been saying that for 2 years straight. It is weird that Fleabag year was the last normal year in my mind, because what the fuck was that? But yeah, it is. There are people who, for some reason, take me at my word when I say that Succession is the only good show on TV, but this sure makes me feel like it is. Like this drama the drama categories are very full of good shows, but they are not full of shows that really excite me, which is not to say that there aren't exciting drama shows out there. It just means that they weren't necessarily nominated. I don't know. A Mandalorian, like looking at the writing nominees, and The Mandalorian scoring 2, and The Boys scoring 1. Like it feels bleak. Feels bleak to me, and it feels strange for, as the Crown person apparently on the podcast, it feels weird to be rooting for the front runner. I'm also a Handmaid's Tale apologist, so the sick part of me would like to see it upset the Crown, because I'm a monster person. I'd love to see MJ Rodriguez win and lead actress for Pose, not just for the history, but the fact that the Television Academy at long last acknowledged performers beyond just Billy Porter and actually brought in one of the trans actresses for nomination is great. MJ has long deserved a nomination. Even as I think the category will go to Emma Corrin, they are also great in a one-off role as Princess Diana on The Crown. I don't know. Like, I have a lot of fear around a lot of these categories, because it's either I feel someone is locked, or it is up in the air to the extent that I have no confidence in predicting what it's going to be, and it could be monstrous.
Before I respond to the general sentiments you've expressed here in kind, because I obviously share them as well, we are of the same mind, I will say that there are a few very obvious things to root for in the drama series races, and admittedly, most of these will not happen because of everything you just said. Nevertheless, I'd love to see Jonathan Majors win for drama actor. He's tremendous on Lovecraft Country, and he's tremendous in everything, and this would be kind of a perfect timing in terms of giving him kind of that early career boost, where it's like, yeah, a lot of indie film fans are well aware of his work. Yeah, a lot of Marvel people know him now as that guy at the end of Loki. But giving him an award for something as exquisite as his performance in Lovecraft Country would be great. I'd love to see it. Libby,
it's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity for the TV Academy to swoop in and award him before the Oscars get a hold of him, which inevitably they will. But also in that category, we'd also love to see a distant would-be wish he was friend of the pod, Matthew Rees win for Perry Mason.
Or actual friend of the pod, Sterling K. Brown.
I know, like...
Of course, this podcast always endorses Ann Dowd winning awards, so Ann Dowd winning in Drama Supporting Actress would give us a great segue into our formerly recurring segment of wakeboarding with Ann Dowd. So that would be great. We'd love to see that. She's very busy at a one-woman show right now in New York, and everybody should go see it if you're in the area. But, make some time to honor her at the Emmys. Libby, you have another point.
You know what? Yeah, it's talking about Ann Dowd, would-be friend of the pod, reminds me again of actual multiple BFF of the pod, Elizabeth Moss. She always deserves basically everything. If you're going to go off book for this, she did some mind-blowing work in this season of Handmaid's Tale, no matter how flawed some of you might have found the season.
It was interesting that for the writing component you mentioned The Boys, because honestly that's the one that you have to root for. Like, that's the one that has to win. Like, The Boys season 2 finale absolutely deserves the writing Emmy. I think that the episode is extremely strong. I think the season is extremely strong, especially when you're looking at a category, like you mentioned, with 2 nominations for a Saturday morning cartoon, aka The Mandalorian. You've got to start putting your weight behind some, at least, like at the very least, something that we could all say is bold, definitive satire. Like, it is absolutely going to places that the world needs to hear at this moment when we are overwhelmed with superheroes and overwhelmed with corporations and overwhelmed with all of the things that this show paints in a very disdainful light. Libby, you have another point. Again, these are all great points leading into the broader context of my argument when it comes to the drama categories. And the last thing that I'll stump for in terms of individual recognition, in the guest actor category, I know Libby's favorite human being, Timothy Olyphant, is nominated, and I would love to get behind that and see Timothy Olyphant win an Emmy, but honestly, I think it would hurt me so deeply for him to win an Emmy for that show, as opposed to all of his work on Deadwood, that I might die. Like, it might just be, my brain might snap in half, because it's just unfathomable for that to be the case. So instead, I think we should give it to Don Cheadle, the guy who, on Emmy nominations morning, was like, what the fuck is happening? This doesn't make sense. I don't understand this, but here we are. And the speech would be good. It would signify to the world that the TV Academy has made some questionable choices when it comes to drama, or at least is forced into making questionable decisions in terms of the winners and nominees because of everything we just talked about in regard to Succession and other shows not being eligible. Which is why I think the right mindset when it comes to the Emmys, and this may just be for me, but I'm going to try to embody it, is to take the limited series races very, very seriously, because there are very important things happening in the limited series category. There are great artists doing great things, and a lot of them deserve the recognition that we don't know if they'll get. Thankfully, there's also multiple great options in that category, so I think the odds of being happy with your enthusiasm, with your priority being placed over there, are relatively high. Comedy, take it or leave it. We've talked about it before. I think Ted Lasso is going to do great. I think we can all be pretty happy about that, especially after talking to Brett Goldstein this week. Here's hoping he can pull off the win. But when it comes to drama, I think it's time to embrace chaos. I think you need to just say, fuck it. This is obviously a skippable year. We didn't need to do this because Succession isn't here, because we didn't have enough shows to really compete on the high scale that we demanded. We didn't nominate some of the shows that really, really, really deserved it. So, screw it. Let's just have a little fun and let The Mandalorian win. Let's embrace chaos. Let's accept that as the ultimate conclusion. Let's say that, there's going to be parts of Hollywood that just can't resist the mega blockbuster anymore. They want to be like movies. They have to be like movies. So let's just let a friggin' movie win at the Emmys. Just in drama, though. Just in the drama category.
Well, before we go to our interview with Brett Goldstein, Ted Lasso's Roy Kent, I did want to sort of touch base with you two about what we all thought was the inevitable backlash coming to the Ted Lasso world. I am sort of flabbergasted by it myself. I find myself defending the show to friends about, like, it has not changed. It is the thing it was before. So if you say, I really like the first season and I don't like the second season, I don't know what to tell you. If it wasn't your cup of tea in the first season, then cool, that makes sense. But I don't think it's fundamentally changed to the place where you can go like, nah, not good anymore. Not the thing it was that I loved last year. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of talk with you two about it, see what your thoughts are. Ben, I know you had some general thoughts, and Libby, I know you were just angry at the outrage over a comedy show.
I would just say that the Ted Lasso controversy has officially gone out of control. Like, it has become something that it's coming from so many different directions, both in the people who are now finding it acceptable to voice their dissent around a show that was formerly so beloved, no angry or dissenting opinions were allowed. And then the chorus of people responding to that dissent saying that, no, it's great, I love it, quit bugging me. It's created just an endless cacophony of noise to the point where, like, no matter what you say about Ted Lasso now, unless it is very specific in saying, like, having like an asterisk next to it, and then at the bottom adding I love this show or I hate this show, people are going to come after you from both sides. Like it's just reached that storm level. And I agree. I mean, I think what Leo said is mostly true. I think there are plenty of flaws you can point to if you really want to search for them. The idea that it is tipped over into some sort of extra sweet, too saccharine, sentimentally charged series, I don't necessarily buy that, but the Christmas episode was the Christmas episode of Ted Lasso. It can be a lot. I've heard from people within IndieWire that it was. I don't agree, but I do understand the points being made around, at least from some people, where they claim that the lack of conflict, the kind of punting of conflict within season 2, where everybody has kind of gotten used to Ted Lasso and accepted his ways and are now friends with him, and they're all supporting each other, and there's no one kind of trying to tear them down other than themselves, has created almost a show that feels, again, like it's leaning too far into the niceness that people said it was from the beginning. As I pointed out in the original review, as many have said from the start of season 2, I believe that this season is about that very thing, is about trying to live a life free of conflict, where you're just positive and happy all the time, and the negative consequences that can come from that. So I fully expect the ending of season 2 to address these things. But if it doesn't, then obviously the criticisms are valid. Even the criticisms could be valid now just because they're not enjoying the show as it exists, which is fine. You could not enjoy things. Not everyone has to enjoy everything. But I do think that the show has earned that kind of second, deeper reading where you look at it and try to understand the different levels it's working on. Because as we've seen, with some of the even kind of throwaway moments from the first season, there's usually very carefully thought out choices guiding those moments. And all of the decisions in season 2, to me, do not feel rushed or forgotten or sped past so much as they are carefully placed to lead up to a specific point. So yeah, I think it'll be great.
Boys, I'm going to go long on this, and I want to apologize right up front. Like, as a person who knows everything, I can tell you exactly what is happening with season 2 of Ted Lasso. You have a bunch of people who started watching Ted Lasso after season 1 had been released based on the show's word of mouth. They binged the show because of the pandemic. They binged the show multiple times, watching the whole of its arc over and over. And now they are stuck. Now they are watching the show in a completely different format and aren't necessarily recognizing it, but they're watching it week to week. That's a completely different experience than sitting down in 1 or 2 sessions and watching, 5 hours of television. They feel as though everything is sweet now because they forget that a lot of the heaviest conflict in season 1 of Ted Lasso came in the back half. Like, for me, for someone who only likes the grim, season 1 took a really long time to get me on board, basically until Ted's wife and son showed up in London. Then we get a crack in the facade. Ben's exactly right when he talks about the show being about people who try it and live their life without conflict. Because the truth of the matter is, conflict will find you. You can bury your problems. You can run away from your problems. But there are problems you cannot avoid. I think Ted Lasso is a little like a duck. You can see it floating along the water and it seems very effortless, but underneath the water, it's doing a lot of work. Its legs are doing a lot of work. The trick is making it look like it's not doing a lot of work. People walk away from the show thinking about all the good times, but if you sit down and think about what it's about, aging, abusive relationships, trying to find love, trying to find connection, divorce, dating in your 40s. Like, there are so many elements at play. And honestly, now that there's a therapist on the team, I'm going to go ahead and guess mental illness. These are very serious things. And these are all people in this series that don't want to talk about those things. They want to throw Christmas festivals, and they want to focus on soccer and making connections and being friends. But there is darkness, and we will get to the darkness. I have every faith in that. And if all you can see is the sweetness, that's not necessarily on the show, because the darkness is there. If all you see is the sweetness, it's because you are falling into that trap the show sets. It wants you to only see the sweetness because the characters only want to see the sweetness because they're all desperately sad. Sorry, that's a huge bummer, but that's why I like the show. If the show was what people accuse it of, I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't stunt for it. I wouldn't write about it. But there is pain, a lot of pain, and a lot of dissatisfaction inside the DNA of Ted Lasso. And I think if people were watching season 2 in a chunk after all of season 2 had come out, they would know that. They would see that. We're just not there yet.
The fun thing to me, though, about that idea is, again, I do think the onus is on the viewer. Like, them releasing it weekly is still a good decision by Apple for its own business model, as well as for the show itself. Because in theory, especially like if this was a Marvel show, people would be watching it on repeat over and over and over every week until the next episode dropped, and discovering all of these things that are tucked away within it that speak to those themes that you're referring to, Libby. And I love that a lot of this quote-unquote controversy, whatever we're calling it, erupted after the Christmas episode. Like, that seemed to be the jumping off point, then the rom-com episode, and here we are now. Because the Christmas episode is about a very sad man, like, dealing with being sad around the holidays. And the episode acknowledges that in its music choices, in what it's doing, and in like the story about Ted. Like, as an episode, it's very positive and uplifting because everybody is making Ted feel happy and positive. But as I wrote about in the review at the time, the core for Ted is not a good thing. Like, he's in a bad place, and his community around him, the people around him, this Ted Lasso way of life where you're always on the up that he's created, has kept him from acknowledging his feelings. It's kept him from digging into his sadness and saying, I am sad, it's okay to be sad, I can spend some time with this and deal with it and come out a better person. Instead, he's being whisked away to play fake Santa and sing a Christmas tune to his team. Like, that's not necessarily the healthiest thing for Ted, even if it does make for a very entertaining Christmas special of Ted Lasso.
Here's what's happening with Ted Lasso, actually, and I would think that viewers would have picked up on it because it was right there in the episode. You saw this happen with It's a Wonderful Life. I was raised in a generation of people who were like, oh, It's a Wonderful Life, it's so sappy and saccharine, because people only remember the cover of the movie. They only remember the last 5 minutes, and they completely gloss over the fact that a large portion of the film is about this man whose dreams get thwarted at every step and ends up on Christmas Eve on the verge of arrest and contemplating suicide because he thinks he's worth more dead than alive. It is one of the darkest films, like openly viewed repeatedly at the holidays, like. But people don't remember that. They just remember how it makes them feel in the end. But that doesn't mean that the movie isn't about what it's about. It doesn't mean that it isn't addressing the things that it's addressing. It just means that, people are watching it wrong.
I mean, the show is very clear about what it, like, the scene they show is legitimately the scene when George Bailey is about to kill himself. Like, yeah. And Ted is by himself drinking on Christmas morning. And if it weren't for the intervention of Rebecca, not to say that he's going, but there's definitely be suicidal thoughts floating around while he's thinking about being thousands and thousands of miles away from his son and his family in this place he doesn't know for a team that he is coaching to a bunch of losses and draws. So yeah, it is difficult to sort of argue with people who are missing the things that are right there on the surface. Is it sweet at times? You bet. Are there a lot of referential jokes? Yes. I guess I don't like when talking to people in the comedy community who seem to have issue with like, oh, Ted is, too jokey. Everything he says is a pun or a reference. And he doesn't feel like a normal guy that you can just have a conversation with. I'm like, what main character in any sitcom ever felt like someone plucked out of real life? Michael Scott is heightened. Leslie Knope is heightened. Like these are not real. And granted, those are modern examples. Maybe you could pluck some of the characters off of Cheers and put them in the real world, but even then, not really. Sam Malone is a very heightened Lothario. Like he's not a real person.
Archie Bunker is
Woody would beg to differ.
a heightened. These things are TV is not real life. Shockingly.
What? Wait.
Yeah. No.
But especially not comedy. Like you shouldn't expect that from comedy. So if you're sick of, I think it's
Ted Lasso's not funny, Leo. It's not a comedy.
But I think it's also fine to say. I think it's fine to say you don't find this funny. Don't say this thing is not funny because I don't find this funny. If that makes sense.
Well said, Leo.
Now I need to go tell myself that about other shows.
I'm gonna go listen to those White Lotus tapes again.
We have a very special guest today. I've mentioned his name twice already. Brett Goldstein.
I can't believe we didn't sing the song.
I know we didn't. I was like, he's probably heard the song so much.
I know, me too.
But he was a
He still seemed like a guy who would appreciate it.
He's here. He's there. He's every fucking where. Roy Kent. He sat down with us for a half hour and talked about everything. Talked about some of the stuff we just touched on. The darkness that's sort of hiding under the niceness of the show. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and we are pulling for him. Really pulling for the whole Ted Lasso crew. Whoever can pull those victories out.
Can I just say, just privately to you guys, and I would hate if our listeners heard this. I'm kind of mad about our interview with Brett. He's a really great guy, and like, what the fuck? There was shockingly little swearing. He's a dude that loves the Muppets.
He did swear.
Like
he did swear.
He did swear. But I was shocked by how much acting he's actually doing as Roy Kent. Which is a huge credit to his ability, because he is the nicest guy.
I mean, I think we didn't talk about it, but he's talked about it before. The fact that he got the Roy Kent part was a big sell, because he'd been in the writer's room while they were sort of breaking the season one, and they didn't have a Roy Kent. And he did a self-tape for Bill Lawrence and Jason and sent it in and said, hey, if this is bad, let's not ever talk about it again. And if this is good, cool, I'd like to be considered for Roy Kent. But the idea is like he's so far from Roy Kent. Like he is not that person. He's far more. I was telling Abby, like, he's more effusive. He's fun. He seems to have a more he's more in tune with the sensitive side, if you were, than Roy Kent is.
Yeah, he was so gracious and effusive, and he recorded his own audio for us people. And if you don't have a podcast, you don't understand how important that is.
Without further ado, our interview with Brett Goldstein. We want to give a hearty millions of screens welcome to Brett Goldstein. You know him, you love him as Roy Kent on Ted Lasso, but he's not just Roy Kent. He's also a part of the magnificent writer's room, and we kind of want to delve into some of that, especially with this upcoming episode. This will release on Thursday, but tomorrow's episode, you wrote The Signal. So, Libby, take it away.
I do have to ask, how did things in the writer's room differ from season 1 to season 2? Did it get in your head at all, being a global phenomenon?
I love that. Just a casual global phenomenon. Actually, we were lucky. Well, one way that it was massively different is that we were all on Zoom. I was here in this little attic you see with the Muppets poster and the bullet holes. So I was just here. Everyone else was in LA, and I was zooming in till midnight every night in this little sweat box. So I lost weight. It was good. But you know, it was a shame not to be together. That was different. But in terms of the whole, you know, thing that you described as a global phenomenon, that didn't change anything because we'd already started writing. Luckily, we were halfway through writing the season, when season 1 came out. So we were kind of just, and it's also the thing of, it is, you have to, as wonderful as all of that is, you have to ignore all that to write the thing you were going to write. And Jason has always had a plan, and we haven't deviated from the plan, despite what people may think is happening, etc. So, yeah, it's more the longer I wonder if season 3 writing will be different. Now we have heard all of this stuff, maybe it will be an absolute nightmare.
No, I mean, if Jason has a plan, you got to trust the process, right?
Stick to the plan.
Well, one thing I talked to you at the junket and talked to several of your castmates at the junket, and the one thing that I didn't get a chance to ask you, but I asked some of the other cast members, is the idea that season 2 has this, overt plot of adding a team therapist. And I spoke to several of your fellow castmates about the idea that Ted Lasso season 2 is like this Trojan horse for therapy for all these people who are in it for this ensemble comedy, but like at the end of the day, you're probably going to be preaching the gospel of like, hey, therapy's for everyone. Like, it can help a lot of people. And I wonder how much of that is in the writer's room, something you guys are talking about or even thinking about. Like, we're laying the groundwork here for like some Ted Lasso fans are going to be like, maybe I should go to therapy.
I don't know the answer to that in terms of, I don't think we think of it. I don't think we ever discuss it like, oh, we've got a mission statement. The mission is this message, this theme. That's always like sort of emerges from the story, I think. We don't have like a mission to change people's lives. Although I do think everyone should go to therapy, yes. But that wasn't something we laid out. That wasn't like on a board like, this is the season that will force people to go to therapy. That may be a theme that comes out of the storytelling, but it wasn't jammed in with a hammer.
Yeah, I honestly wanted to just ask about last week's episode a little bit in terms of kind of what it was like to go through all of those very iconic, even going back to the Christmas episode, really, with the Love Actually homage, kind of getting to be that romantic comedy lead and be that person, as an actor, portraying that as a character who's, not the kind of guy you'd typically associate with those things. So I wanted to know from your end, like, was that fun? Was that exciting? What were kind of the challenges that went into playing into those tropes and genres and everything surrounding Roy Kent's journey?
It was, look, I cannot, it is, I feel so lucky with all of this. Like, you wouldn't believe how lucky I feel. Like, it all feels like magic that I'm even allowed to do this. I fucking love playing Roy Kent. Like, I love it. Like, it is really, I'm very, very lucky that I get to do it. And stuff like, I got to do all the stuff in the last episode. Got to do a Tom Cruise run. Got to do a fucking, race across. And the reality was, filming that montage of getting Roy there took ages, took weeks. Like, it was all filmed in tiny bits. So when I did finally get to the stadium, it was real, man. It was like, fuck, like, it was real. Like, it had been a real journey to get there. So, there's been loads of moments on this show that feel like magic has happened. And certainly walking out onto the stadium with the crowd doing the chant was one of them.
Well, I guess when you're in the writer's room and you're kind of working on these scenes that, are very much about Roy, and we've seen kind of Roy's evolution this season, does it change anything for you? Like, when people pitch ideas about Roy and when you're pitching ideas about Roy, knowing you're going to, eventually commit to those on screen, do you think about that in the room? Is that something that enters your mind, or how does that kind of feel?
Yes, of course it does. Yes. No, I mean, look, to be honest, I actually sometimes I'm very aware in the writer's room of trying to separate, as in, I'm very protective of Roy, but I'm also protective of all the characters. And I think we all are. I think the reality is everyone really, really cares about all of these characters. And maybe I pitch less Roy stuff because I don't want people going, oh yeah, you're only looking out for Roy. You know what I mean? Like, we really care about all of them. And I think the more it goes on, the more you know the actors. Like, that's the one thing I was going to say about the difference of writing season 2 is writing the scripts for season 2 was such a treat, because when we wrote season 1 we didn't know the actors, and now we know the actors, we know how fucking good they are. So writing dialogue for Hannah Waddingham or Juno Temple or Phil Dunster is exciting, because you can imagine, you know, they're gonna fucking smash this, and like, you know, the kind of joke that they're the best at, and it's real. You know, you've heard this phrase, and I don't think I understood it until actually making Ted Lasso. This thing of the sandbox. It's like, we built the sandbox, we have the characters, we got the action figures, and season 2 we get to play with them and move them around. It's like, wow, like, it's so fucking cool. Fuck. I've realised I'm like sounding far too excited about all of this. I haven't talked about it for a while.
No, it's totally fine. Well, you mentioned sort of being protective of Roy and protective of all the characters, but a question I had is, I'm sure there's a lot of like, where does Brett stop and Roy begin? And my own personal question is, are you really a soft G GIF person, or is that a Roy Kent?
Yeah, that's a Roy Kent, of course. Of course I know how to fucking say GIF.
I just wanted to check. I wanted to get on the record that Brett says GIF.
Not going in the podcast. I'm just going to tell you that right now, because I feel very called out. Very, very called out right now.
What happened?
The first word is graphic. It's a hard G.
It's a hard G. Oh, Libby, do you say GIF? Is that why this has come up?
Yeah. Yes, I say GIF.
Okay,
I own it. I used to feel intense shame over it, but no, I'm okay being like Roy Kent. Like, that's fine.
I'm okay being like Roy Kent. You be proud of that GIF.
I will. I know I won't. I'll be talking about my therapist. I'll talk to my therapist about this week. It's fine. We can keep it in.
Then the season worked.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of my therapy,
please.
There are plenty of people who seem to exclusively want to talk about the show as how nice it is, but actually, as a chronic depressive, what really appeals to me is the show's darkness. As both a writer and performer, how do you approach that difference in tone? I think it's something. I can't give you the exact quote that Jason says, but I entirely agree with him, which is, like, without being a dickhead, like, funny's easy. The funny part's easy. The hard part is making sure you have, I don't want to sound pretentious, making sure you have the emotional truth of the scene and the characters. If you have that, if you've worked that out, if the tracks are clear, this is what the scene is about, this is what these people are going through, then the funny stuff is easy. Then you can add as many jokes and then it's just a question of tone. Like, sometimes you go, that's actually sort of too fun for what's actually going on here, or less, or whatever. Like, that's the bit that's where it's play, I suppose. But the work is making sure the track is real and truthful and consistent. I love it. But let me circle back really quick.
What did that have to do with your therapist?
Oh, I'm a chronic depressive, so I only really like sad things.
Sure.
It took a while for me to get on Ted Lasso's wavelength, and then it got super depressing with Ted's divorce and all that, and I was like, yes, like, here we go.
There's so much for you to enjoy, Libby. I can't say anything, but
I got a feeling. I'm very excited. I feel like Christmas for me wasn't the Christmas episode. It's whatever is in store, and I highly anticipate it. To be honest,
I want to talk to you when we finish the season, because I guarantee I know your favorite episode of this season, and it hasn't happened yet.
But actually, circling back to like being protective of the characters. Sorry, Leo, I'll be really quick. There seems to be a little bit, I don't want to say a complete personality swap between Nate and Roy this season, but we are definitely seeing different sides of them. Roy is a little sweeter. Nate is a little more bitter. Can you talk a little about that dynamic?
I can talk about Nate as far as when does this come out? Episode 6. Like the Nate story in particular. I'm really, that's the story for me that I think I'm most proud to be part of as part of the team. In that I think it's really complicated and adult, and like there's a bit in episode 5 which is so sort of ugly and sad, which is when, you know, him trying to make himself big does not make him feel big. And in fact, spitting at himself, spitting in the mirror, he's so disgusted by himself that is what motivates him. It's the sort of self-loathing of himself. I find that like whenever people accuse Ted Lasso of being too sweet, I'm like, watch that scene and come back to it. Like, I think that's just that sort of complicated. That's an ugly scene. Like, it's really upsetting, that scene. I find it really, and I think Nick Mohammad's amazing, and it's complicated, and it's like, it's not quite clear. You know, it's like that's real stuff going on there, and I think what's funny is it's all been there. Everyone, like, the everything has always been there, and some people seem shocked by it. But what's interesting, if you watch the very, very first episode again, you watch the pilot, Nate's first move is aggressive and shouty. He shouts to them, "Get off the pitch, get off the pitch. Oi, you, get off the pitch." It's only when he sees that it's his boss, his superior, that he becomes the Nate that people love, the shy, quiet Nate. Like, all of this stuff has been there all along. And when he comes out of his shell, everyone's, you know, one of the great episodes, great moments in it, and I'm not saying that including me, is because of him and the writing, is, you know, Ted says, finally, talk to the team, say what you want. And he roasts them. He doesn't go, here's my, you know, Nate has anger and darkness in him, and he always has. And in episode 10 of season 1, he shouts at Hannah, "You did this, you shrew." Like, he's got deep anger and self-loathing, and it's all there. It's just, you can choose not to look at it. And in terms of Roy, again, look, Roy's a start at the beginning of season 1. Roy is so depressed and in such a dark place. He's an iceberg. He's completely shut down. There's a moment in like episode 2, I think, where Jamie makes a joke about his not mine because it's a wig, chest hair. When he says, "Oh, put your jumper on or something," and Roy doesn't even say anything back. He just goes and walks off because he's dead. Like, Roy at the beginning of this is dead. Like, this is the end of it. This is, everything's shit. Forget it. And he's just slowly been thawing. But all of this has been in him, and it's a kind of, it's a thing we talk about. Like, I guess, what's the phrase? 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or whatever. Like, Keeley has had a huge part in Roy's thawing, and Ted, and all these things that he's realizing. But he's still an angry motherfucker, and he's still the same guy. He's just lots of some of the ice has fallen off, and he can see out, and he's let a bit of light in. And I think sometimes it really annoys him that he has. Like, you know, it takes 5 episodes for him to admit that he misses football properly, you know. Like, he's a stubborn, difficult man still. It's just that he's also in love, and these people keep being fucking nice to him. It's annoying.
I think you mentioned that, like, the Roy Kent of season 1 was someone who thought that he would play football until he died, and then he can't play football anymore. So, like, in a sense, he's not dead, but he can't do the thing he's supposed to do. So it's sort of like this second life, and he's sort of like wandering the streets looking for, like, what do I do now? Coach girls soccer? Do I, be a pundit? Join the coaching staff.
Yeah, he's just been floating around, and the thing that has kept him anchored is Keeley. I think it's the first time he's been properly in love, or at least let his guard down to be in love. So that part of his life is great, but the rest has been a fucking mess.
I mean, personally, I'm glad that he ended on the coaching staff, because I feel like now it completes the King of the Hill suffocation of Ted Lasso, because you got 4 guys just standing in front of the dugout, and you guys can just like comment on the world, the 4 of you.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, when we were in the writers' room, there wasn't a thing saying this season is about therapy. It was, this season is how do we make it look like King of the Hill. That was the plan.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you guys had that board and it says Trojan horse therapy, and he has it crossed out. That's not what we're doing. We're doing King of the Hill.
That sounds too hard. Let's do King of the Hill. Let's do King of the Hill visuals.
Real quick, related to Roy's kind of time between season 1 and season 2, I just wanted to ask, how much of the retirement speech did you write and have to perform? Like, how much of that is actually out there somewhere?
How much exists?
Yeah.
In the Snyder cut, it's about I think the full length is about a minute and a half, 2 minutes of solid crying and and saying things. There were different there's versions of it.
Yeah.
Like
did you do different versions? Like, did you have different styles going into it? Like, did you take it one way or the other, or was it always that?
Yeah,
it was always
no. There were kind of 3 levels of it. We did kind of 3. There's 3 versions of it. Is all I can tell you. I don't know if
great work that I've
they
seen.
will ever release.
Yeah.
You what? Sorry.
Great work so far from what we've seen. I think everyone's eager to see more, but that is obviously at your and Jason and the rest of the team's discretion.
I appreciate that, Ben. Thank you very much. That was my first day filming back. That was the first thing I filmed was that fucking crying video.
Right into the deep end. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it was easy. I'd left my attic for the first time in a year. What is this? What is the world?
Funny.
Oh, I was saying, do you want to ask the question about swearing?
Oh my God, yes. I love swearing.
Me too.
Yeah. Brett, why is swearing in front of children so funny?
Because people that don't do it are dicks. If everyone did it, it probably wouldn't be funny. So I guess we've got to be grateful for the people that are scared of swearing in front of children, I guess.
Right. How does little and I'm going to totally butcher her name. Elodie.
Elodie?
Yeah, how does Elodie roll with those blue streaks? Has she grown immune to them, or
look, Elodie is annoyingly the best actor in the show, and makes
I'm not
us all look like dicks. Like if there's one person guaranteed to know all their lines, hit all their marks, and take any note like that, it's Elodie, which is annoying. She's not unlike Phoebe. Every time I swear in front of her, she'll sort of shake her head, roll her eyes. But also, she's the grown up in that room, sadly.
Two kind of dumb questions. The first one being, last time we spoke, you mentioned that Angels in the Outfield is one of your favorite sports movies. Now, you said Field of Dreams first. But then you expanded upon Rookie of the Year, and you said most baseball movies are pretty good.
Love it.
I have sort of 2 questions related to Angels in the Outfield. When is the last time you watched it?
Not for a long time.
Okay.
Why does it not hold up?
That would be my question to you.
That's your follow-up question.
Yeah. Well, my follow-up question is: have you tried out? Because I think I suggested to you at the time, Little Big League, I think that's the best of the children baseball sports movies.
Okay. I haven't tried Little Big League, but now I will. I'm scared to watch Angels in the Outfield. Did I talk to you last time about how it haunts me? There's a moment in Rookie of the Year when Daniel Stern knocks on the connecting door between a hotel rooms, and the other door closes on him, and he's just stuck in the middle with his arm up, pressed between 2 doors that have locked on either side of it. I'd say I think about that once a day.
I love irrational fears about things that'll never happen, but
once a day.
Yeah.
God.
Irrational fears comes up so often in our interviews. I don't understand what it is about us that draws it out of people.
And then here's my second very, very dumb question. For those who don't know, you are the successful host of a podcast called Films to Be Buried With, and I couldn't let you go without asking a hypothetical of my own. Although it's not going to be about films. This is a television podcast after all. Brett, I regret to inform you, you've been stranded on a desert island. But luckily, you brought along a solar-powered TV DVD combo. So,
okay, great.
And then you had the wherewithal to bring along 3 box sets of 3 television series. What 3 TV series are you bringing? And I'm sorry, you cannot choose The Simpsons.
Hang on, does it have to be shows I've seen? Because surely I'd bring shows I haven't seen.
Oh, you definitely could bring things you haven't seen. I thought you'd lean in things you've seen, but
it is a risk. But I mean, I'm so behind on so much TV. I'm kind of like, I'm on this desert island. Give me the White Lotus. I ain't seen that yet. Give me fucking. I mean, pretty much everything that people talk about, I haven't seen yet. So, okay. But if you want, I'll give you. But if it's like rewatch stuff that I haven't,
Yeah.
I mean, look, the two greatest shows of all time, as we all know, are The Wire and Deadwood, right? So I'm bringing The Wire and I'm bringing Deadwood. And then
Deadwood.
And Deadwood doesn't get enough love for being as good as The Wire.
This is what I'm saying. Oh my
Deadwood is The Wire in the past.
Yeah. Yes,
it's the same
110%.
thing. It's about how did this happen? Watch Deadwood.
Yeah. And how do you survive?
How do you survive?
Yeah.
Watch Deadwood, that's how. And also the Deadwood movie. What a beautiful finish. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the podcast now. This is it.
It's a Deadwood podcast now.
I mean, Ted Lasso, great, but we'll do our Deadwood.
Deadwood's Deadwood, and then I'd maybe take Cheers because I fucking love it. It holds up, and there's a lot of them.
Yep.
That's fair.
I think those are
perfect.
Amazing answers. There's no right answer, but that's about as close to a right answer as I think you could
The
get.
Wire, Deadwood, and Cheers. Fucking hell. I don't want to get saved.
Yeah.
Leave me on the island.
On that desert island. Yeah.
Exactly.
Watching The White Lotus while stranded on a desert island would be quite an experience. Like seeing all of that kind of posh hotel lifestyle being skewered horrifically while you're just kind of stuck building a campfire and trying to find shelter. But I still recommend it. So great picks.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. Well, Brett, thank you so much for being a part of Millions of Screens. We're so excited to have you on the podcast. We love Ted Lasso. We've been preaching the gospel of Ted Lasso for over a year now. And we're very excited for tomorrow's episode, The Signal, written by yours truly, Brett Goldstein. Everyone go watch that right now.
Thank you, guys. What a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate it. And I do genuinely very grateful for all the love you've been putting Ted Lasso's way. It means a lot to all of us. So thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Leave the attic.
Therapy. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. And we're back.
Wasn't he nice?
He's so nice. He's so great.
So nice. I know.
And he picked the best TV shows. I actually rewatched the episode after we did that interview, and in the kebab scene of episode 5, where his portrait's hanging up, and he's like, if you don't take that down, you have to give me kebabs for free. The portrait next to his is George Wendt in Norm gear from Cheers. So the fact that he picked Cheers.
Jason Sudeikis' uncle, George Wendt?
Yes. But yeah, that was a great interview. And again, he is nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Emmys. Voting closes when?
Monday.
Millions of Screens is a production of the Penske Media Corporation IndieWire. Our theme music features extras from the classic YouTube video Bjork Talking About TV and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Our editor-in-chief is Dana Harris-Brightson. Our publisher is James Israel. And we're still in search of an executive editor. But that search is winnowing. Millions of Screens, and mostly Leo, strongly endorses the following baseball movies.
Oh, God.
Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, and For the Love of the Game. And if you thought those movies all have Kevin Costner in them, you're damn right they do. That guy knows a baseball movie. If you want to watch a movie about baseball that centers around children, I highly recommend Little Big League over the lesser films, Angels in the Outfield and Rookie of the Year. Sandlot's good because Sandlot's about kids. You can find us on Twitter at A Million Screens, at Midwest Spitfire, at Ben T. Travers, and at Leo Garcia. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. So leave a review and let us know what you think. This has been Libby and Leo. Remind you as always that you shouldn't let poets lie to you.
You shouldn't let poets lie to you.
Ain't nothing wrong with a couple of cold brews and a cool podcast.